So back in 2016, I wrote up my ideas for what I would like to see for Dragon Age 4. My thoughts honestly haven't changed much since then, so I've decided to share them here. We may not get details on Dragon Age 4's plot or structure anytime soon, but we can speculate and fantasize about what we'd like to see. The crux of my scenario is the idea of having dual protagonists. The Inquisitor is central to the fight against Solus, and as a Lavellan player in particular, I would like to control my character and interact with him. I want to see this tragic romance to the end. At the same time, the Trespasser ending and the rumors we've heard about the old Dragon Age 4 Joplin design definitely hinted at the player character being a new recruit of the Inquisition in Tevinter. And frankly, building up and developing new characters is one of the things I've found the most fun with this franchise. So I say, why not do both? For, say, 80 to 90% of actual playtime, we will be playing our new hero. However, when the new hero completes a major plot mission, we will see Dorian pick up that sending stone he gave the Inquisitor and Trespasser and make a report on their progress. Then, zap! We're suddenly playing as the Inquisitor, listening to Dorian's report before playing a mission as our old protagonist. Now, I'm of the opinion that taking the Inquisitor's arm in Trespasser was intended to take the Inquisitor off the front lines of battle, and personally I'm okay with that. Yes, I know, maybe Dagna could whip up some weird lyrium-powered prosthetic or something, but I feel like 2 entire combat parties might be a bit much to ask, and more to the point, I actually think this is an opportunity to explore alternative gameplay. Instead of being combat-focused, the Inquisitor's gameplay could be more focused on dialogue, puzzle solving, and other non-combat focused gameplay. They could also revisit the war table concept here. I'm reminded of a quest in The Knights of the Old Republic, where the player character stumbles across the location of a murder. Basically, we help the detective solve the case by listening to the stories of the 2 people accusing one another, and the facts of the case from the detective, in order to determine what happened and who's at fault. That's the sort of thing that could happen. The idea is to have the 2 protagonists represent 2 different gameplays that impact one another. In this regard, as an example, I like to point to an old GameCube game, Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy. As Sphinx, the game plays a lot like one of the 3D Zelda games. You fight monsters and explore the world. But every time you find one of these magical canopic jars in the story, your magical talking basket friend whisks it away to the bad guy's fortress and revives the mummy for a brief spell. His gameplay lacked combat and was entirely puzzle-based, but he would find information and items that your basket friend would then take back to Sphinx. 2 different gameplay styles that work symbiotically. If you're interested in how a dual protagonist scenario might play out, bear with me and I'll walk you through a rough sketch I've come up with of how such a setup would work. But first, I hope you'll indulge me as I go through how Dragon Age 4 could implement origin stories for the new protagonist. I love the origin stories because I think they work wonders to introduce new players to how the society works, which I think will be needed in Tevinter, especially as it's been so long since the previous game. Now, one comment I remember hearing from Dragon Age Origins developers is that front-loading so much work into the Origins actually had a negative impact on what they could do elsewhere in the game. With that in mind, my idea for origin stories is essentially to have 2 origin stories that each have 2 variations according to race. My idea is to set the start of the game in a Tevinter city expecting an imminent Qunari attack. In the preparations and evacuations, there will be a high path exploring the elites of the city. This will be the path for humans, a member of an Altus family and a dwarf of the Ambassadoria. The low path will explore how the lower classes are reacting to the situation, which will be the path for Liberati elves and an enslaved Qunari. My thought is that the convergence of these paths will be the Qunari attack, which will give us a chance to see a Qunari amphibious assault on Tevinter fortifications in the style of D-Day, I hope. During the attack, the new protagonist will stumble across Fen'Harel's agents and the Inquisition fighting for access for something in the Magister's vault. In the process, the new protagonist ends up working for the Inquisition and fleeing the city before it falls to the Qunari. They then go to Minrathous, where the new protagonist is recruited by Dorian to work for the Inquisition and serve him in some official capacity. The idea here is that losing their familial power base in that fallen Tevinter city basically brings the High Path origins down to a level where they need outside help, and Dorian's endorsement potentially frees the enslaved Kunari while elevating both Low Path origins. Everyone should be equalized in terms of status and influence, roughly speaking, at least to a point where it wouldn't require two entirely separate games to justify playing them by the lore. Then, after some preliminary exploration of Minrathous, we can talk to Dorian, and after the full report he will turn, open up a private chamber, and start speaking to a magic sending stone. Suddenly, we're controlling our Inquisitor, talking to Dorian in a quiet corner of a soiree in the White Spire of Val Royeaux. The Inquisitor is attending a conference between the Circle and the College of Enchanters as Vivian's guest, but really the Inquisitor is there because of a tip that Fen'Harel's agents are after an item stored in the Circle's vault. And so the Inquisitor must engage in a race to infiltrate the vault through puzzles, maybe some Mark of the Assassin-style stealth sections, all to get to the item before Fen'Harel's spies. And maybe it ends in a chase through the streets of Val Royeaux on horseback down to the harbor. The sequence ends with the Inquisitor boarding a ship to Kirkwall, where they hope to find more leads. And that's the framework of my idea. The new protagonist will continue to operate in Tevinter, while the Inquisitor takes on self-contained missions as they gradually make their way north for the climax, going from Val Royeaux to Kirkwall, maybe stopping in Highever or something along the way, then working their way north through Navarra to Tevinter. Admittedly, I like this idea in part because I would really like to give BioWare a second chance to do Val Royeaux justice, at least visually, and I think it would be cool to see parts of Kirkwall or other familiar locations done to modern visual standards. The Inquisitor will also give orders and set operations in motion that will impact what happens in Tevinter and what situations the new protagonist will encounter. I'm imagining that the new protagonist will be based just about entirely in Tevinter, exploring a selection of open-world areas like Inquisition, at least one of which I would like to be Minrathous. So we have the Inquisitor performing specialized missions and giving orders, while the new protagonist does all the things we expect a Dragon Age protagonist to do. Well, that's all I have to share today. I hope that all made sense. I'd really like to keep the Inquisitor involved to see the conclusion of the Dread Wolf storyline, and the only way I see that being fully satisfied is to control them. At the same time, I love the idea of building a new character native to Tevinter. Hopefully we'll be able to get the best of both worlds. This will be my last video of the year, and I'll hopefully get back to it in a month or two. Until then, check out all the lore videos I've already made. Happy holidays, and have a happy new year.